So for anyone who has started video editing and you happen to find OpenShot, this is a quick, simple tutorial that will help you get the basics and everything you need in order to start editing a video on OpenShot. So let's get started. Okay, so we're in OpenShot right now, and as you can see, the outline is pretty simple. If we go to the top of the toolbar, we can see all these little icons that have a different purpose, such as opening, saving the project, importing files, or exporting the video. And all these tools you'll be able to use later on. We also have our project files playlist or transitions in our effects tab that you can switch around when you're editing. So everything is here and organized pretty well. You can always organize your files based on video, audio, and image, just in case you want to organize all the files that you're importing when you're editing. From here, we have our video preview screen, and if we click on the choose profile icon, we can see that we can change the resolution on which we see our video preview screen. But here you can see all the edits that you're making when you're editing your video. And finally, if we come here down to the timeline, as you can see, we can see all these little icons that are tools that will help us edit our video faster, such as adding the track, using the eraser tool to cut the clips, and even our zoom in and zoom out feature so we can see the timeline a little bit better as we're editing. And all these are simple and easy to use when we're editing, and you can see that each track isn't really specified. You can either use these tracks either for video or audio. I'll recommend a particular order in which you edit later on in the video. You can also use these toggles that are found in some of these sections that may increase the space or decrease the space of each window, such as our video preview in our project files. We can increase and decrease each area. So if you come here down to a specific track and we right click, we are presented with these options to add a track above, add a track down below, rename a track, lock it, and finally remove a track. So right now I'm just going to remove a track because I already know how many tracks I'm going to be using for today's specific video. And you can do the same thing. You can either delete all these tracks, start from fresh, or add more as you see fit. But that is the essential outline of what OpenShot will look like as soon as you open it. So the next thing that we're going to do is import our footage. Now you can do this one in two ways. You can go to the file button and click on import files, or you can just use the little plus icon to import the files that you're going to be needing in order to edit your video. From here, you'll just open a window and you can pick out every single file or recordings that you're going to be using in order to edit your video to import it on your playlist. And all you have to do is just click on the file and just hit open, and it should appear on your playlist. Now there are other options that you guys can use as well. One of my advice would be to save all your files for that specific video that you're trying to open and get all the files together, and just with holding control on your keyboard and just clicking on each of the files, it would all import to OpenShot instead of reopening the import button over and over again. Or you can just open your separate documents folder as a second tab and just click and drag all the files you're going to be using straight into OpenShot. So that way it would be a little bit quicker when you're importing files. Now that I got all the files that I'm going to be using imported, the next thing I'm going to do is just basically drag it down to the timeline. In order to do this, all you have to do is just go to your playlist, select the file, and just drag it down to whatever track you want to use it. Me personally, I'm just going to drag it down to the third track so I can leave a extra track up above just in case if I want to add any overlays or lower thirds. So I'm just going to be dragging all these clips down appropriately, and it's really simple and straightforward to do. Now as you can see, I dragged down a larger video file onto my timeline, but I'm not going to be needing every single part of it. So in order to split or cut or trim down a video, an easy way is to set your cursor wherever you want to, and then just use the eraser tool and just click on the area you want to cut the video at a certain point. And all I have to do is just select on the part of the video that I don't need anymore and just delete it by hitting the delete button or the backspace button, and it should delete by itself. Now if you want to select certain parts of the video that you want to trim down, you can always move that marker tool so you can see what you're editing. Another way to trim down a video is by choosing one of the ends, and then a new cursor should appear, which will allow you to drag the video how short or how long you want it to be. And one important thing to keep in mind is to make sure that you drag the video and connect it right beside the other clip, and there will be a blue line letting you know that those clips are actually connected, so you don't leave any empty spaces in between the videos. Like I said before, you can always mess with the timeline in order to zoom in, zoom out, or scroll depending on what you need to see when you're editing. And one thing you should know is that most of the effects and the settings of the video of each video clip will be found using the properties setting. Now in order to view the properties of your video as well as any other settings you want to add to it, all you have to do is just click on the specific video clip you want to see, right click. As you can see, a whole menu will pop out full with different options such as the fading in, the volume adjustment, and any animations that you guys want to use. So for now, I'm just going to add a simple fade into the video to add that transition. But if I right click again and choose on properties, properties, it will bring a different separate window onto the side, which you can see all the different types of properties and settings that you guys can adjust on that video clip alone. This will allow you to adjust any audio settings, as well as adding any filters, cropping the clip itself on the preview screen, either by shrinking the video or stretching it out. You also can place the scale of the video or image you're editing wherever you want to, so that would work great for image overlays or lower thirds. And all these settings are here available for you, as you can program different keyframes and different settings for each of your videos. So I know it's a little bit different from other video editing programs, but this is a really good tool to use, especially if you want to personalize your video clip when you're editing. But as soon as you're done messing around with the properties and settings, you can close the properties window just by clicking on the exit button here on top. The next thing I want to show you how to do when you're editing is adding transitions. So for this, I'm just going to choose this video clip, I'm going to cut it using the razor tool, and I'm going to implement another video clip that I have in my playlist. And as you can see, I'm going to adjust all the video clips that I have established in my main timeline. So as you can see, if we go back to our project files, we will have these different tabs I showed you before, but for now we're just going to focus on the transitions. Now there are many transitions here available for you guys to use, and you can basically explore it and pick the ones you like and the ones that you want to use. Now by adding these transitions is really simple and easy to use, and all you have to do is just click on the transition you want to use and then basically drag it down to the timeline wherever you want to add it. And as you can see, the transition will appear as a little blue block, and what I recommend is either putting it at the end of one clip or the start of another, or what I like to do is putting it in between of both clips. And here you can basically pull on the sides of each transition clip, so that way you can decrease the duration or increase the speed of the transition, and you just place it perfectly in between each clip, or you can just adjust it however you like to. You can personalize this even more just by right clicking and just adding some fade in or fade out effects onto your videos, but these transitions are available for you guys to use and add to your videos. So something to keep in mind whenever you're adding some fade out or fade in transitions or any keyframes at all is that little green markers will appear either at the end or the beginning or anywhere in the middle of your video, depending on where you set that keyframe. So if I zoom in, you can see that there's a little green marker at the end of this video because I have added a fade out transition, and this will appear throughout your video clip anytime you add a keyframe or certain effect to it. It's also important to remember that you guys can zoom in and zoom out just to get the overall look of your video and on your timeline, which can get pretty messy when you're editing a long style video. And like I said before, when your playlist is super full of video clips and files, you can always go to the project files and choose the video, audio, or even an image tab so you can see each file that you're using or have not used yet. So that way that organization can help you out a lot. But the next thing that we're going to do is add our audio, and it's basically the same way we add any video clip. Just click and drag it down to the timeline, or just put it according to where your video starts or ends. Now here I'm not being super careful because I'm just editing a rough draft, but when you're actually making a video, you want to make sure that you synchronize your video and your audio as well. Especially if you're editing a very important video that audio is a big part of it, you want to make sure it's synchronized and in time. However, regardless of what audio file you may be using, all the properties and effects can be used the same. So for example, if I click on my audio file and I right click, I can use any of these settings that are provided to me, including the volume feature, which will allow me to control the volume of this specific clip, just in case if I want to decrease it or increase the volume. You can also go to the properties feature like I showed you before and control the volume from there. You can add all these effects such as fade in and fade out effects and so much more, but these are the bare essential settings that you guys can control whenever you're trying to increase or decrease the volume of a certain audio file. But you can also customize these in order to differentiate between an audio and video file. One thing that I do like to do whenever I'm working with audio files on OpenShot is just basically selecting on the audio file, right clicking, and go to display, and from here I'm just going to click on show waveform. This will give it a new appearance on the timeline, and you can actually see the waveform a little bit better whenever you're trying to increase or decrease the volume, so you can see what you're working with, as well as any blank spaces that you guys may edit out when you're editing certain audio files on OpenShot, which can be really helpful. But for now, I just opened a few more files that we're going to be using, this including a background music file that I'm going to be using in my videos. But like I said, you guys can use anything, either a voiceover, background music, or even sound effects. The process is pretty much the same, and I'm just going to select it and move this background music file all the way to the bottom. And like I said before, there are different ways you can structure it, since each of the track doesn't limit you what kind of files go in each one like other video editing programs do. They don't have a specific track for any specific type of file. They're all open, but I would always suggest having your video files on the top followed by the audio files on the bottom. And the next thing I'm going to do is just adjust the audio file to my liking. I'm just going to change the thumbnail size as well as adjusting and decreasing the volume so you can hear my voiceover during the video. And you guys can mess around with these settings as well if you want to increase or decrease the volume, and if you want to add a fade in or fade out effect to your audio files as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just select on my main video file that I'm going to be using, and using the razor tool and cut out specific parts of this video so that the effect that I'm adding to this video is only remained in that part or section of the video. The next thing I'm going to do is go to the effects tab, and I'm just going to add a simple blur effect. And as you can see, as soon as you add the effect, you can see a little circle with a letter representing what effect you're using, and I'm just going to click on that and I'm going to select on properties. And as you can see, it gives you an option of how much blur you want to add to your video effect, and you can change these values however you guys want to, whatever fits your needs. But as soon as you're done, all you have to do is just close the window like we did before, and the effect is added on that certain part of the video. You can also click on the same little letter if you want to remove the effect that you have applied. From there, I'm just going to make sure I have an extra track on top of the main video track that I'm editing on so I can put a overlay image on top of it. And this is the simplest way you guys can add any overlay videos, photos, or even lower thirds. Just make sure that if you're using an image, make sure that the image is transparent or PNG as this file says it is. And for now, I'm just going to adjust it and put it specifically on the place where I cut the main video and I added the blur effect, so it fits nicely into that and it times perfectly. We can see a clear, transparent background with just the image of the logo and a blurred background, and this effect is pretty easy to achieve, and I use this effect a lot when I'm editing my videos. And as you can see, if you right click on that image overlay, you will have an option to animate that image so it can just appear with a transition or animation. For now, I'm just going to select a slide in animation. However, if you guys don't want to use that animation for this particular image overlay, you can always go back to properties and change the values from messing around with the position and location of the image itself. And whenever you're doing this and messing around with the specific location, depending on where your eye markers are on that specific video clip, you're making a keyframe. So every time you change the location, you're basically allowing it for it to animate either with a slide in effect or slide out effect. But you can always right click and have the option to insert the keyframe, or right click and use the option to delete a keyframe if you don't want it to be added to your video. So that is a really good way to delete or add certain keyframes if you're trying to animate something at all. But as you can see, we have finished editing a whole video from start to finish. Now the last thing to do is save and render this project. So in order to save this project, all you have to do is just go to the file and select on save project. This will open a new window, and from there you pick out wherever destination or file you want it to be saved at. All you have to do is just select that destination and rename your project. So for now, I'm just going to put it a simple name, and once you're done with that, all you have to do is just hit save and your project is saved, just in case if you ever want to make some changes later down in the future. The final step is exporting the video, and all you have to do is just click on this little red button icon and a new window should pop up. From here, the file name should appear once you've saved it. So OpenShot vid, that is the path and the name that we chose for this video as we saved it. From here, we're just going to select a profile, and if you want to pick the web or internet, you guys can use that profile as well. And the format, well, if you're uploading this to YouTube, I would just suggest using the YouTube HD option and just select the video profile of your choosing. But for now, I'm just going to use 1080p, basically the default, which I know works pretty well, and then the quality you want it at high. If you switch to the advanced option, it gives you an advance to export either the video, audio, or both of them together, and all these settings are basically default to what we expect whenever we're exporting a video. But yeah, make sure all these settings are how you like it, and once you make sure of that, all you have to do is just press on export video and the process should start. So there you have it. You have completed editing a video on OpenShot by using this simple process in which you guys can take and improve on however you guys want to when you're editing your videos. But there's always something else new to learn, and if you guys want to find out 5 different tips that I wished I knew when I first started video editing, I'll have that video linked below. But if you want to get to know OpenShot a little bit better and what it truly offers, go ahead and watch my review on OpenShot. It will also be linked down in the description, or you can just wait to the end of this video. If you have any suggestions or questions, leave them down in the comments. But that's pretty much it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.